So, good afternoon, Ian. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I am doing well. I just wanted to thank you for stopping in today. As you have brought in your cover letter and resume, and you are aware that this is a interview for property manager real estate position.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
why don't we go ahead and begin since this is the first time we've met you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I am 23. I am a junior here at YSU. I currently have a real estate license and have for the past 2.5 years. I am a part of the CLIF, the interpersonal communication field. I should be graduating in a year and a half. And I also realize I say a lot sometimes.
Okay.
So a part of having a real estate license, I do property management, which spans from creating the listing all the way through to maybe renewing a year, sometimes 2-year long lease.
Okay. So you have the behind the scenes and early on sort of responsibilities.
That's correct.
Okay. So Ian, why don't you tell us what you feel your strengths are?
I feel like I have a good skills subset of communicating with others. I am prompt with returning. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you again. Returning emails, phone calls. I'm good at conflict resolution as a property manager. I've dealt things from unruly tenants who feel like they haven't done anything wrong when they've been in clear violation to the lease, to homeowners who feel like they're entitled for me to do everything, like taxes and things like that, where sometimes there's a fire that I need to put out. So I feel like I've become pretty good with conflict resolution.
You say that you're good with conflict resolution. Can you give us an example of a situation where you had to use that skill?
I had a tenant, like I mentioned, who will break the lease. This was a real life scenario that I just finished going through. The tenant moved in family when they weren't supposed to, and also some of their dogs. It turned out the wife, who was also on the lease, allowed to be there, was on methamphetamine and was leaving drug paraphernalia at the house with the children. So I had to go through the process of the police reports, the eviction court, which wasn't pretty, and getting the tenants out of there in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you. So what do you feel are your weaknesses?
I feel like my two biggest weaknesses, even though one of them is not all that large, is I'm not very good at typing, like on a computer. I'm good at poking, so I'm quick with that. But another one would be like sometimes when I'm speaking, I'll start saying sometimes I'll stutter over myself.
Okay.
And I think that mostly comes from the initial interaction. Sometimes if I feel like I'm unsure about something, I'll stutter. But once I get my foothold, I pick up pretty quickly.
Okay. Why don't you tell us about a failure you've had in life and what you learned from it?
Oh boy. A failure that I went through and overcame would be starting my company that I worked for previously. They had no presence down here in the Youngstown area. So I had created a working relationship with a repairman who I found out wasn't quite up to snuff, and it wasn't until bigger issues started coming up that unfortunately some of them were a little pricey, some plumbing leaks, so having to mend a couple of those broken relationships, and having to find someone else, which was a bit of a pain, but I powered through it.
What did you learn from that experience?
To do more research on someone before I hire them. To really search, reviews, and if it's someone who's up and coming, kudos to them, but if they have no history, how do I know I can trust them?
Mm-hmm. Why do you want this job?
The company I'm with now sent me down to Youngstown with no resources, and I feel like I'm more undervalued than what I'm worth. I don't have an inflated sense of self, but I feel like a company that's established here and is localized will have more resources and, more support behind me than my current company.
Okay. What is it that you feel you know about the real estate industry?
I know a lot of people are worried about a big market crash. That's been everyone's fear since 2008. And while that obviously no one can speculate the future market, if I could, I wouldn't be here right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the market, especially in Youngstown area, is picking up really rapidly. I remember seeing a report just a few years ago that was listed the Youngstown area as one of the best investment markets to get into.
Interesting. Okay. And what is it that you know about our company?
I know that you've been around for the past 80 years. You have 25 locations in around Youngstown and Akron. And I've heard and talked to other agents who I've met with before I interviewed that you guys have a really good support system. The local brokerage offices will do whatever they can to help out their agents when need be.
Okay. All right, Ian, what questions do you have for us today?
What plans, what do you guys see in your future? And then I guess just kind of goes through some of those questions that I have on the...
Whatever questions you want to ask, yes.
Okay. How did you get into the real estate field? What challenges do you see in facing us right now as the real estate industry?
Okay, thank you for that.